I've been using Raycast over the past 3 years, so I thought that's a perfect opportunity to show you my top 10 extensions of the past year, how I use them, and especially how they help me save a bunch of time across my macOS usage, and how they can do the same for you. And no matter if you're a beginner, intermediary, or pro, I think everybody uses the software a bit different, so you'll definitely see two or three quirks you can copy from me to help you enhance your workflow. So let's get right into it. And starting with number one, which is the navigation. By the way, I'm gonna start with the one I use the least to the one I use the most to keep it exciting till the end and also give you a cool bonus. So, number one is the navigation. So, what does it mean? Well, you might see whenever you open a new application at the top row all these like sub menu points. Like for example, for the Finder, you have the File, the Edit, View, Go, etc. And you might want to know, does this application has a certain feature or option? And if you want to Google that, you can do that, but you can also simply, for example, look through it with here. You can see Finder has the option of fill. But an even faster way with Raycast to do that is the option called Search Menu Items. So what does it do? Exactly what it says. You can search through the menu items. And not only that, this also helps you to see the most common shortcuts, the default shortcuts, to access those features. So in this example, I can, for example, see recent folders. And this is super helpful if you're downloading a new application and just trying to have a look what is actually possible here. Number two is also super useful in saving your time. It's two-factor authentication. Actually, even in two ways. Number one is via SMS. So whenever you have an iPhone that is connected to your iMessage and iCloud and it receives an SMS, it actually has the option to get directly displayed in Raycast via the V2FA codes, or you can also work with an instance of OTP codes. So for example, when an app prompts you for those, and then you can directly access them within Raycast. So with this, you can save you a bunch of time and a bunch of clicks. The next one is also about time actually, and it's called timers. So with this, for example, if you're a Pomodoro fan, or if you have a tight deadline that you need to adhere to, you can simply go through here with tabs or arrows and say, hey, I want a 25-minute timer, press enter, and after it, if you set it up correctly, it will ring. Very loud, I can assure you. So make sure to cancel it or pause it at the right moment, but you will know when it's over. Or you can save yourself more time with the menu bar where you can manually select the timer here and actually trigger it via here if you enable the menu option. And on top of that, if there's something that makes your Mac slow, or if it's resourceful, or if you really want to save that battery for the moment, you have the option called Kill Process, where you can see what is the most demanding from your MacBook right now, what is using the most memory or CPU power, and with a button of an enter, you can simply kill it off and know, okay, this is not the thing that's gonna make my MacBook sound like an AirPod. And coming to the next one, this is especially useful if you have a second language, if you're bilingual, if you're trying to learn a new one, or if you just need a dictionary for another language. And in my opinion, the best one is Dict.cc. It's similar to, for example, the Oxford Dictionary, and it's a super precise. So let's say I know, for example, German, I type house, I get house. And it's more useful and more precise than typical AI generators. Speaking of AI generators, you have them directly integrated in Raycast with the Pro model, and if you actually open the Raycast settings, you can, in comparison to ChatGPT, have more control over this. So you have, for example, Llama, GPT-4o, or the Anthropic Cloud models. And how is this useful? For example, the Llama model is a perplexity model. So this means whenever you want to open Google, you can actually save yourself time by instead typing, who is the current president? And if you paste this here and press tab, which is the default trigger for asking the AI, you can see it gives you live up-to-date information instead of a normal language model, which obviously has a cutoff date, which is super useful. And obviously you also have like default ChatGPT integration, so you have both the benefits of having an up-to-date model, but also a good language model. And this is a pro subscription for, I think, around $8. You get additional benefits, for example, like the next feature, which is called the Emoji Search. And it is, in my opinion, way better than the default version because emojis are getting more and more common for expressing emotions or icons all across the board. And in comparison to the macOS one, which I think is super slow or bad, you have way more options here. Because one thing you have is AI search. How is this useful, you might think? Well, let's say you're looking for a camera, I don't know, like a Fujifilm. Normally, emojis are obviously not tagged by those terms. But with the AI search, you actually get the appropriate emojis for those specific contexts. So, super useful. The next thing that is also super useful is making a quick note. So let's say you're in a meeting and you just want to write something down very quickly. You could take a sticky note, but the cool new way to do it in Raycast is with Raycast Notes. You obviously already have seen I've made some notes about like a web development course. Here it is about CSS foundations. And it is actually super cool because it's based on Markdown, which is a common text editing format, and you have a bunch of features here. And it is also a floating window. So in which application you ever are, you know it's always going to be on top of whatever you're doing, apart from this thing here. And it is just the go-to way because you can also search through it. And it's my go-to way. Okay, I know something is important. I open it with a shortcut here, type it in, press enter. It's there. I know I can always search it. It's an open format, Markdown, and it's super accessible. Next one is the most used Raycast feature of mine, and it is the Clipboard History. It does what the name says. It collects what you put in your clipboard. So I open it with Command-Shift-C, and while it might sound obvious and most people who use Raycast might know it, I want to show you some additional features I find useful. Because in my opinion, Clipboard History can handle, for example, images really well. So let's say I take an image and it gets directly into my clipboard here. So off here, you can see the image. You can see what the dimensions are, the size, etc. And you can also have additional features with actions. And you can, for example, have Command Y. So if you're taking a picture that is only in a small thumbnail, you can see it here in full detail. And what you might notice is I can hover over this text and select it. So you notice it actually does character recognition. And this is incredibly useful if you take a bunch of screenshots that you want to look through over time. So let's say you're on a website, you take a screenshot of somebody's contact details or just any important point of information you want to find later. So if I open this Clipboard History and I type in Finder, I actually get all screenshots where Finder was ever mentioned, which is incredibly useful because in a pro version, the Clipboard History is unlimited. So it's basically like an extension of your mind and unlimited memory. And for somebody who does forget things quite often, this is a game changer. So yeah, and the final last thing, the little bonus I promised you, this is gonna spice up every screen sharing, and I definitely recommend you to put it on a shortcut because it's just a fun gimmick, is the confetti, which is the end.